If you're having trouble winding down or sleeping through the night, this problem likely started at 2 p.m., not 2 a.m., and now your system is on high alert. I'm Jill, and in the next 10 minutes, I'll be explaining the biological reasons driving this wired but tired state so you can finally, hopefully, get some rest. Sleep challenges really are a daytime problem, and insomnia is merely a symptom of a dysregulated cortisol cycle, keeping you in this wired but tired state. So while sleep hygiene and wind down routines are important, they really are just the last finishing touches on what is a much wider picture involving your cortisol rhythm and wake and sleep cycles. Let's take a moment to understand this cortisol rhythm. So when we wake, we want it to be at its peak. And this is helpful because it helps with getting going. It can help with inflammation in our body. And that's ideal to have it at its highest point in the morning. And then around midday, it starts to come down if all is going well. And then dropping even further by, say, 2 p.m., which is a point in the day where a lot of us can experience a bit of an energy crisis or a crash. And I'll be talking more in a moment about all of that. We'll unpack what happens at that 2 p.m. marker. But just know that ideally we want it to come down. We don't want to override it. And then it will, if everything is on track, it will keep coming down, down, down into the evening, and then allowing us to settle into a really gentle wind down routine and a really sound sleep. And sleeping through the night. Now, if that baseline of cortisol never came down all the way as we entered into the evening part of the cycle, then it can be a bit of maybe thinking of it as a bit ahead of schedule. So around 2 or 3 a.m., it could be spiking rather than waiting until normal waking time a bit later, a couple hours later. And that 2 to 3 a.m. spike is what gets you suddenly awake, staring at the ceiling and not able to go back to sleep and just feeling so incredibly frustrated and wired but tired. But it literally is your biology at play here. Now let's unpack some of the reasons that your cortisol rhythm may be dysregulated and that you're likely having a crap night of sleep. So the first reason could be that in the morning you choose to go straight to your phone. And there's both kind of physiological implications surrounding this, but also psychology surrounding it. So we need daylight hitting our eyes first thing in the morning to send a signal to our system that we are at that waking part of the cycle where we want cortisol to be peaking. So that is just the first thing to consider is when you get up in the morning, what are you orienting to or grounding to first thing? Is it kind of nature and the cycle of the sun, or is it this arbitrary man-made device? Then the next thing could be skipping meals, and that can create stress on our system as well. When our blood sugar levels are not well managed, that can create dysregulated hormonal rhythms in our system altogether. So while overeating is not ever ideal or the answer, undereating and skipping of meals is also detrimental to our system and this balanced rhythm. So to set the tone for the day, let's kind of talk through this ideal day. Say you wake up and the first thing that you do is maybe open the blinds and get some sunlight coming into your eyes. If it's nice enough weather, literally go outside and just leave your device to the side until, at the very, very end of your morning routine, if possible. So then also within a short amount of time upon waking, you would want to get some type of calories into your system, kind of to break the fast that you've had during the night and to send a signal to your body that You are going to feed it, you're going to look after it, and you're going to provide basic energy for it to get through the things that it needs to do in a given day. And caffeine comes into play here. So certain substances affect cortisol very directly. So for example, caffeine actually has been shown to elevate cortisol levels. Well, that may not necessarily be a bad thing in the morning. So if you have coffee or tea or something in the morning and use that caffeine wisely to support the part of your cortisol rhythm where you want it higher, that's actually maybe helpful. Then versus if you use it in the afternoon or in the evening and you're using it very either mindlessly or intentionally to override your cycle when you want your cortisol to be coming down. We don't want to confuse it at that point and feed caffeine into the system, say at, afternoon, evening, and have then disconnect between the cortisol, which should be coming down, and the caffeine, which is signaling to it, no, elevate. So something in the evening maybe that would be more helpful, you could do a little bit of research on some adaptogens. For example, ashwagandha is well researched and it's shown to actually decrease cortisol. So that would be something to maybe do a little bit of a good self-care investigation on if you're looking for something on the supplement end of things to help you come down in the evening. So another thing that really kind of derails the natural rhythm is just cognitively overriding our body. So when we get a signal from our body that could be anything, it could be, oh, I'm slowing down, or I'm feeling a bit tired, or I'm feeling energetic or focused, or whatever it is, or I'm feeling unsafe, and we don't take a moment to pause and respect that, and we cognitively override it, in fact, and do something that is just the opposite, that tips things in the direction of harmful versus healing. That's another way, and it can happen in all kinds of forms. It can be not respecting your boundaries, taking on too much, just never saying no, perfectionism, an overvalue of doing versus being, whatever all the things are, just recognize how they impact your cycle throughout the day. Of course, hormones are in the mix in there as well. I don't like to demonize anything, but they are certainly a component. So lack of movement is another thing that can derail our system. If you're not getting a variety of movement snacks and you're super static and device centric, that kind of creates shutdown or almost a bit of a frozen body state, if you will, even if there's not real trauma behind it or anything. It's just a bit of actual physiological collapse when we're not getting good movement. And so then that can impact our whole state of homeostasis as well. So just to recap, those things that can derail that cycle are going to a screen first thing in the morning, skipping meals, skipping movement, misusing caffeine at the wrong time of day, cognitively overriding what your body signals are saying, and did I say lack of movement? If I didn't, sorry, that's redundant, but So there's many, many ways that we can get offline. It's typically not any one thing. So I'm fully aware and have compassion for the fact that we are not separate from the systems and environments that we exist within. And sometimes these systems and environments are very conducive to us making better decisions, setting up better habits, and getting back on track. And sometimes they're not. So I do want to just take a moment and respect that. I acknowledge that if you're in a situation where it isn't an easy or supportive system or environment, whether it's work or home or wherever it may be, you will likely feel quite challenged in terms of choosing things that are healing versus harmful, because there's not good feedback loops on the periphery or on the external side of things to help you reinforce what you're doing intrinsically. But it is not a lost cause. What you can do are look for hubs. And by hubs, I mean little grounding points throughout your day. So even if the bulk of your environment and systems that you exist within are at the moment not fabulous for you, you can find one little hub. It could be a physical hub where something feels safe and relaxing. So for example, at work, maybe you find one location that you can go to during your workday to pause, close your eyes, and collect yourself. And it may seem really silly, but this is where things have to start when they're not going great. So another hub could be a person, a safe person, starting to just kind of seek out and nurture a healthy relationship with one safe person. And this may be that it's someone that is in a professional capacity that you pay to hold space for you. It could be a friend or just a trusted colleague or family member or whatever it is, so that you have one safe person hub. So another, there's kind of low pressure safe spaces. Maybe you find yourself orienting towards a gym environment where it just feels safe. You don't have to necessarily overthink it, but when you walk in the door, something just feels right and congruent with you. So maybe work's going crap, maybe home's going crap, but maybe you have this hub of going to the gym or the pool or for a walk or whatever it is that's a safe place. So as you have those hubs that you orient to, those are your grounding points, and that is really what allows you to build your capacity to first of all be able to listen to yourself, so that you can actually make better choices about respecting your nervous system and your own physiology. So I recognize that there are just going to be times where sleep is flat out challenging based on what's going on in life. I am not exempt from this. I have just had a pretty intense cycle of insomnia. I am going to be releasing 3 movement-based videos that are related to sleep. So there'll be an evening kind of wind down routine that you could actually use earlier in the day if it's at all possible. There'll be a kind of 3 a.m. rescue. So if you're awake at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, there'll be a little bit of just something. And then I'll have a sequence that I create so that if you have just a terrible night and you wake up feeling shattered, that you can come to that practice, of course, after you have had some daylight first, and ideally after you learn the sequence, you would be able to do it self-guided without looking at a screen. So I hope that you find that support helpful and a bit of an ecosystem to help you for when things fall offline, that you can return to. And in the meantime, just keep looking after yourself. And I would absolutely love it if you would just give me the tiniest little comment. Just let me know what about your sleep cycle feels the most challenging. So thank you so much for joining me today. Take care and bye for now.